Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the companion, the Mechanical Hound. So this is actually the second take on this video. The first video I put up was very close to being the perfect Hound build, although there was one mod that could make it better. And I want to give a little bit of a shout out to a commenter, Quiet Darkness 27. So he just said that I should take a closer look, like head-to-head between Repo Audit and Reflex Denial. And in testing both of them head-to-head, Repo Audit does beat out Reflex Denial. So I thought that was a big enough change for me to redo the video and not just have a pinned comment. So that's why we're doing it here. We're doing the video again. So if you watched the video before, that's pretty much the only change, is that we're going to be going to Repo Audit from Reflex Denial. Okay, let's continue on here, though. So we have the top commenter of the last normal video, which was Adam37, and the first commenter, which was Silver44. And we have our recent supporters here of Johnny, Eddie, and Lil Vio. Okay, so the Mechanical Hound. Every pet in the game needs to have a niche. If they don't have a niche, then they're not Steel Path viable. And the Mechanical Hound's niche is status spreading. And he doesn't just status spread, he is the best at ranged status spreading. There's another pet that is better at melee status spreading, but for non-melee, like anything out of melee range, the Hound is your boy. He is your boy for status spreading. So that could be beneficial for a number of things. Maybe you're just using a weapon that it has multiplicative condition overload, and so it's very powerful because of that. Maybe you're using a melee weapon that is further than melee range, right? Like a gunblade or a glaive. And so, although glaives don't use condition overload, but you know what I'm saying. So he's primes and puts statuses on things that are a little bit further out than melee range. I mean, granted, he still does it at melee range too. It's just that when we eventually do the Dirija is the one that's a little bit better at melee range. Okay. I'm going to briefly just go over how to acquire a Hound. So to get a Hound, there's the Kuva Lich system, but then there's also the Tenant Sister system. So it's going to be going through the Tenant Sister system. You're going to get a sister, you're going to do your sister, and upon finishing your sister off, you're going to get her weapon. You're also going to get a randomly built Hound, and you're going to get a Hound part. And eventually, when you get enough Hound parts, you could just build your own Hound and make it look exactly how you want it to look. Now, Hounds are technically three different creatures. They're actually three different Hounds. It's the Byra Hound, the Dorma Hound, and the Heck Hound. And each of those dudes have their own specific mods, and actually some of the mods are tied to the pieces as well. However, when you master a Hound, all of his preset mods become available to all the other Hounds. And so eventually, once you get all three of those, and you master all three of them, you could just use all of the Hound mods on the Hound himself. And he becomes kind of just the Hound instead of being one of those specific ones. And so that's why we don't really have a specific name on this pet right now. It's just the Hound because I have everything mastered. Okay. So I think that's about it. We can go into the build here. Okay, and for specific mods, there are so many specific Hound mods. I'm going to just pull these a little bit over so they're separate so you can kind of see all of the Hound mods here. So I have Synergized Prospectus and Repo Audit on right now, but then there's another 7 Hound mods. And a lot of these are very good. However, the ones we have on are the best. But I just want to do a little bit of an honorable mention for Reflex Denial. This is the one that was on the build that I ended up taking off for Repo Audit. Repo Audit is slightly better than Reflex Denial, so you should use Repo Audit over Reflex Denial. But I just want to mention that about a month ago when they did the companion rework, they actually fixed reflex denial where it doesn't block your shots anymore. So this used to be really annoying to use because it would block yours and your allies' shots, but they fixed it. It doesn't happen anymore, so it's really cool. Now, why is Repo Audit better than this one? Well, they both say that they do magnetic damage. This one says magnetic damage, and this one says it's a magnetic pulse. It's just that this reflex denial just does magnetic damage. I was not able to actually like proc it. So I don't think it actually does the proc. It does the damage, and that's it. And for a status spreading pet, like it's good, but it's not like I really wish it would have done that proc. But Repo Audit actually does the magnetic proc. And it's also in a 30-meter radius, which is really nice. So reflex denial, the other thing with it was that it requires enemies to hit you and shoot at your, well, not you, but your pet. And then it will, pulse with magnetic in a 12-meter radius. Repo Audit is in a 30-meter radius. So granted, though, Repo Audit is line of sight. So you do need line of sight on those enemies for it to work. Okay. And then all the other mods, again, they're good, but they just don't make it on the build. We're using 2 of the Hound mods, Synergize Prospectus and Repo Audit. Okay, so let's start at the beginning here. We're going to start with the 2 survivability mods. I'm using Link Vitality and Link Fiber because I'm playing a health and armor Warframe. So it makes sense for me to link my health and link my armor to my pet. However, if I was playing a shield and adaptation Warframe, I wouldn't want to link my armor. And instead I would do link redirection to link my shields. And it would look like this, link shields and link health. The other thing you can consider for a shield and adaptation Warframe is not linking your health. You continue to link your shields, and then you also use accelerated deflection for just an increased shield gate on your pet. So either of those 2 ways are good for a shield and adaptation frame. Again, I'm a health and armor frame, so I'm going to go ahead and take these off, and I'm going to put my fiber back on. And now, not all Warframes are health and armor Warframes, and not all Warframes are shield and adaptation Warframes. Some of them are shield gate Warframes. And for shield gate Warframes, they don't stack health, armor, or shields. They just have bad stats, and they shield gate. That's their survivability. So it wouldn't make sense for you to link your bad stats to your pet on a shield gate Warframe. So on a shield gate Warframe, you're going to be using these mods down here, the regular ones. These just improve your pet's base stats. And the other thing with a shield gate Warframe is you can still use accelerated deflection. That's fine. Okay. We're going to continue with Synth Deconstruct here. Enemies injured by the companion have a 25% chance to drop a health orb when killed, which is really, really good for this pet because he injures a crap load of things. He's not necessarily great at killing. He doesn't do like amazing damage, but he does a lot of small damage. So this is going to proc a crap load of health orbs. And what is this combo with? Well, it combos with the Warframe mod Equilibrium. And it also works if you just need some more healing on your Warframe. Maybe you're struggling, you just need some extra healing. So if for some reason neither of those 2 things you need, right? You're not using Equilibrium or you don't need extra health, you could consider taking off Synth Deconstruct. I'm going to skip Mystic Bond for now because this is the flex slot. Okay, now we have Primed Animal Instinct. This is Loot Radar and Enemy Radar. Personally, I think Primed Animal Instinct and Vacuum are always mandatory on pets. But I know a lot of people that don't run with Primed Animal Instinct, so that's more of like an opinion of mine is that these 2 should be mandatory. So if you don't like Primed Animal Instinct, this is another slot that you could possibly run with something else here. Okay, Manifold Bomb. This is very important. This is kind of what makes the Hound do his big thing. So there's 2 parts to this. I'm going to start with the first part, which is companion precept mods apply status effects from companion weapons. Okay, so companion precept mods, that's any mod that has this little symbol, precept. So it's Synergize Prospectus and Repo Audit. Apply status effects from companion weapons. Okay, so these, they do their own thing, right? Like Synergize Prospectus is a little electric ball. It hits a dude, and then it'll ping around and hit seven other dudes. So, and it could apply electric. Repo Audit, it's a magnetic pulse that puts magnetic out there. But with Manifold Bond, now these are actually also carrying forced procs of your weapons statuses. So if we go back here, and we're going to go into the Akaton, and I slightly changed my Akaton up. If you watch the first video, you'll notice I don't have magnetic now on the Akaton, and it's because now the new mod actually produces it. But so for the Akaton, if you see here, I have 5 statuses: corrosive, puncture, slash, blast, and radiation. So those 2 precept mods, when they do their thing, they're not just applying that electric or that magnetic, they're also carrying over 5 other statuses, and they're forced. There's no like status chance that needs to proc. It's just they're forced procs. So that's what makes the Hound an extremely good status spreader. Is these 2 mods here. Honestly, you could run with just one of them if you really wanted to. You could run with Manifold Bond and Synergized Prospectus. And when Quiet Darkness suggested Repo Audit, I had played with Repo Audit for a while, but for some reason I just had a brain fart and I didn't include it into the build this morning, or I didn't do further testing, which I should have. But like, Repo Audit is almost good enough to also be by itself. So like Manifold Bond and Synergized Prospectus are kind of good just like by themselves, and Manifold Bond and Repo Audit would also be good by themselves. Now, I think Synergized Prospectus and Repo Audit are good together because Repo Audit can only hit things that are in your line of sight. Technically, Synergized Prospectus is also, like, he's only going to shoot that little electric ball at a dude that's in your line of sight, but it could ping around all over the place. Like, so the things that it pings around to don't need to be in your line of sight. So I feel like these 2 together are very powerful. Okay, and then the second part of Manifold Bond, the other part of this that makes it very powerful, because if it was just that, it would still be good, but it wouldn't be as crazy as what I'm going to explain now. So if it was just that, then this would still have a cooldown. Repo Audit, I believe, is on a 20-second cooldown. So, it would be okay. But let's read the second part of Manifold Bond. Killing enemies with 3 or more unique status effects reduces companion ability cooldowns by 3 seconds. Well, pretty much everyone's going to have more than 3 statuses on them. So he's going to be able to kind of machine gun spam Synergized Prospectus, and he's going to be able to cast Repo Audit pretty often too, because, I mean, this is a longer cooldown of 20 seconds, but, killing 4 enemies is a 12-second reduction on that, so it's pretty crazy. Okay, now we'll go over Momentous Bond. Momentous Bond is pretty decent. So killing an Exumus enemy grants 120% bonus of a random elemental damage to your companion for 30 seconds. So when you kill an Exumus, your little dude, your little Hound, is going to get a random element added to his little status list that can also be carried over with Manifold Bond and with the precept mods. Now, sometimes that element is going to be something that you already have, so it's not really going to give you any benefit. And sometimes it's going to be something that you don't have, and so you'll get a lot of benefit. So it's good enough to make it on the build. It's really good. It combos with him. Okay, and that's pretty much the Hound there, but I want to go over this top slot here, Mystic Bond. This is the flex slot here. So Mystic Bond is absolutely amazing, but let's read it here. After your companion uses abilities with cooldowns 5 times, you get to cast a Warframe ability for free. Well, with Manifold Bond and with these 2 precept mods, he's going to be machine gun casting them. So he's going to be able to get a free cast like once every 5 or 6 seconds with Mystic Bond, which is really, really powerful. But there is a big reason why sometimes you may not want to use Mystic Bond, and actually why it would be a very bad mod sometimes. And that is if you play Shieldgate. If you play a Shieldgate Warframe, the reason that Shieldgate Warframes do not pair with Mystic Bond is because Shieldgate Warframes usually are using Brief Respite, which is an aura, and they're using the Augur mods, which is a certain mod set. Both of those mod types have a second effect on them, where when you spend energy, you get shields back. And so that is what gives them their shield gate potential. Well, with Mystic Bond, this makes your abilities free, so you're not actually going to spend energy on them sometimes. And so this could kind of trip you up, and you won't get your shields back because of this, and it could end up like getting you killed, basically. So for a shield gating Warframe, you might want to consider not using Mystic Bond. For every other type of Warframe, you know, for a health and armor Warframe, shield and adaptation Warframe, maybe a Warframe that has some other like weird survivability type, like an invisibility or a like Revenant with his Mesmer shield, Mystic Bond is fine. But for an actual shield gator, probably don't use Mystic Bond. So let's go over some options over Mystic Bond. Okay, so Seismic Bond. Seismic Bond is pretty good. This is basically a 30% ability efficiency buff, which is really nice. The only negative to this is that you have to have a channeled ability on your pet. Or not on your pet, sorry, on your Warframe. On your Warframe. And not a lot of Warframes have channeled abilities, but for some reason, if you're a shield gator and you have a channeled ability, you could use Seismic Bond over Mystic Bond. And this will still help you with energy, but it won't screw with your shield gate up like Mystic Bond will. The other thing to consider, and this is a one that I kind of screwed up when I did the first video too, I kind of misrepresented this. So Reinforced Bond is a really good mod. It's just that you have to fulfill its conditional for it to happen. So this gives your Warframe weapons 60% fire rate, which is really nice. Now, to fulfill this, your pet needs to have a shield of 1,200 or more. And before I had said, oh, no, he can't get over 1,200 shields. And that's not true. I don't know what the hell I was thinking there. So if you wanted to use Reinforced Bond, you could also use this here. But you need to get over 1,200 shields. Now, to get over 1,200 shields is a lot easier than I had tried to make it out to seem in the first video. You could just use Calculated Redirection, which is just the basic crappy brown mod. Put this on here, and you see now our shields are at 1665. So this would activate Reinforced Bond for 60% fire rate. So Reinforced Bond is nice. It's a really good mod. It just kind of makes you change your survivability type up, and also it takes away that Mystic Bond slot, which is really powerful. I mean, for some reason, if you're playing a Warframe that maybe doesn't need energy, then you could consider this too. So you know, that's a thought. Let me take those off and make sure I put my thingies back on, because I'll forget them. Mystic Bond, okay. And then we'll go over the last thing here, which would be Guardian. So Guardian is another simple thing that could go over Mystic Bond if you're a shield gator. This boosts your shields by 100% when they run out, which is really nice. And actually, consider this, because this combo's really, really nice with Manifold Bond, because this is another mod that has a cooldown, and it's a precept mod. So this is another one that, you know, normally would only trigger, I forgot exactly what the internal cooldown is. Like, let's say it's 10 seconds. It's probably not, but let's just say it's 10 seconds. But with Manifold Bond, now he can machine gun cast Guardian. So for a shield gator, like, this is really good. This is really, really good Guardian here. So consider Guardian for if you're a shield gating Warframe. So okay, that's pretty much it there. That's how you build the Hound out. We're gonna go over his weapon now. And actually, you know, before we go over the weapon, I did this in the first video, and I should do this here too. So there are 3 different Hound weapons. There is the Akaton, the Bataton, and the Lacerton. They are exactly the same in stats. The only difference in all 3 of them is the physical elements that are on them. Akaton is puncture and slash. Bataton is impact and puncture. And the Lacerton is impact and slash. Now, if you look, I've gone ahead and I've built out my Akaton. I built this out a while ago. But I'm going to try to explain why you shouldn't do what I did, and I think you should build out the Bataton instead. So remember what we were saying, your pet with Manifold Bond and with the Precept mods, you're going to be carrying over your statuses that are on your pet's weapon. And when you go to shoot things with your Warframe, like with your actual weapon, like if you're using like the Dread or the Grokata or whatever the hell it is, those statuses are also going to be adding to the statuses that your pet already put on as well. So you want to just produce as many statuses as humanly possible. Well, why do I think the Batatin is better than the Akatin? Well, the Akatin is puncture and slash. Most of the weapons you're going to be building in Warframe are going to be slash heavy. Like 90% of the weapons in the game are going to be slash heavy, or at least have slash somewhere in their profile. And so by using the Akatin, it's almost like you miss out on an extra physical element because you're going to be producing slash anyway. So with the Batatin, this has 2 physical mods that are a little bit rarer. Like you don't usually build for impact. You don't usually build for puncture. So that's perfect. So I feel like the Batatin is better than the Akatin. Now, you know, the difference is extremely minor. These are like super min-max things I'm talking about, like stuff that you probably wouldn't even be able to tell, like in the simulacrum, like the difference in damage or priming. But I think the Batatin would be slightly better than the Akatin. But because I have the Akatin built out, I'm just going to bring this up here. Again, exactly the same weapon except for the physical elements on it. Okay, and we're doing, when we go to build this out, we're doing the same thing. We are considering that normally on our Warframe weapon, we're going to have the stronger elements, right? We're going to be building maybe slash and heat or whatever, you know, slash, heat, viral, things like that. So we're purposely wanting to put weird stuff on the Akatin that we would normally not be producing on our Warframe weapons. And so I've gone ahead and I've chose to do corrosive, blast, and radiation. But you can choose whatever combination that you would like as well. Like it doesn't have to be corrosive, blast, and radiation. Maybe you're the type of player that puts blast on most of your weapons now because blast was recently buffed, and so you wouldn't want blast on your Akatin then. Maybe you would want viral here instead or something. Me personally, I put viral on a lot of my weapons, so I don't want to put viral on here. So pick the 3 statuses you choose based on what you use the least in the game. And then again, you know, we have the two physicals here, puncture and slash. Okay, so let's go over the mods. So we're going to have the whole top row and one of the bottom for elements. That's going to be creating all of these. So we have Primed Fever Strike for 165 Toxic and Voltaic Strike for the 60-60 Electric to make Corrosive. We have Vicious Frost, which is the 60-60 Cold, and Volcanic Edge, which is the 60-60 Heat, to make Blast. And then we have this nice handy-dandy mod right here that this is kind of like newer. It came out like a year-ish ago. But in one mod, you get a whole combined element of radiation, which is really nice. So with those 5 mods, you're able to create, a bunch of different elements there, which are going to be carried over by your pet. Okay. Now in the last 3 slots here, there's 2 different things you can do. If you look, the pet actually has pretty garbage damage. Like if you remember from watching like the Kubros and the Kavats, they get pretty high crit chance. They have crazy crit multipliers. Some of them have really good status chance. Some of them are about like 40-ish%. But a lot of the Kubros and the Kavats do crazy, crazy damage. This one, not so much. 10% crit chance is pretty dookie. If we type in critical chance here, critical chance, we're stuck with True Steel for 120 or Galvanized Steel for 110, which is going to give us like a 21 or a 22% critical chance, which is still dookie. So the Hound is not really a killer. He's a status spreader, but he's not really a killer. He does kind of doo-doo damage himself when he goes and whacks things. So you can, again, you can do one of 2 things. I've gone ahead and I've tried to increase his damage. I have his damage increased because of Prime Pressure Point, which is melee damage, Spoiled Strike, which is melee damage, and Condition Overload, which is melee damage. But is this going to make him into a killer? Hell no. He's still going to be really bad. So the other thing that you can consider is kind of forfeiting damage and just accepting that your little puppy is just going to like lick the enemies and not do too much damage. And instead, you can kind of boost up this status chance a bit further. You see how it's 42? Now, granted, you're not going to be able to boost it up that much further, but you'll be able to boost it up a bit further. So I'm going to type in status chance here now. And we could replace one of these damage mods. Of course, you'd be picking the weakest one first. You'd be picking like Spoiled Strike first. You could replace one of these damage mods with Melee Prowess for 90% status chance. And you could also, you remember how we used Prime Fever Strike for the 165 toxin? You could also put the 60-60 tox on there as well for more status chance as well, 60% more. My little kitten is coming up on the desk right now. Hopefully she doesn't press any buttons. So those are two different ways you could build this out. You can do what I did, which is just damage, 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 or you could do 1 on damage and then 2 more on status chance, just to increase his regular paw attacks. So that they apply statuses sometimes, although his paw attacks are still shit. So pick whatever a shitty setup you want for these last 3 slots. It doesn't really matter too much. Okay. So that's the Hound. That's the Akaten, but again, I think it should be the Batatin if you build it out. And I think what we'll do now is we'll show this in gameplay, and we'll show what it looks like here. So I have the little Grakata on me, so I'm just going to go into a Mott. And we'll show this status spreading. And if you watch the first video, you can also compare this new mod that we have on here to the last one, and you will see that it is better.
Your weapons make
and it actually applies magnetic, which is a big thing.
Life support has been cut off. They're trying to choke you out. Hold on.
All right, let me get a few kills first to lower the cooldown of those abilities. And of course, my guy has to go uninvisible. There we go. I'm not invisible anymore, and he should start doing his thing. So that guy is primed. That guy's 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 primed. My cat is attacking my headset. That guy's primed. That guy's primed. That guy's primed. So now, you know, if you remember the first video, they were like half of the enemies sometimes weren't primed. That guy's not primed. Those two weren't primed. Okay. He's up here doing it. These guys are primed. These guys are primed. He's primed. They're primed. This guy, yeah, he's primed. And you can see too, like if we look, you can see that magnetic status on them as well. It just fell off there, but he had that magnetic status on him. So that mod actually does the magnetic status. So, all right, that's all I really wanted to show is that he is a really good ranged primer. And that is doing a lot better priming than my first setup. So that was important. That's why I wanted to redo the video there. So I do appreciate that information. So that's the Hound. That's how you build him out. That's how you build out its little weapon there. If you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. Oh, my little cat is going crazy here. If you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.